Last week on the show, we speculated as to whether or not Donald Trump's abrupt decision to fire FBI Director James Comey had anything to do with him possibly trying to obstruct justice. And now that we have the Comey Memo, it seems as though that's definitely the case. So the New York Times explains President Donald Trump asked FBI Director James B. Comey to shut down the federal investigation into Mr. Trump's former National Security Advisor, Michael T. Flynn, in an Oval Office meeting in February, according to a memo Mr. Comey wrote shortly after the meeting. "I hope you can let this go," the president told Mr. Comey, according to the memo. "I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go," Mr. Trump told Mr. Comey. "He is a good guy. I hope you can let this go." Mr. Trump told Mr. Comey that Mr. Flynn had done nothing wrong, according to the memo. And we then know what happened next. Comey would not let it go. Donald Trump later fired him. Donald Trump fired James Comey to obstruct justice because he didn't want James Comey looking into Donald Trump or his allies. And it's so serious that it could literally bring down Donald Trump's administration. We're talking about impeachment. That's how serious this is. Now, the correct move now is to appoint a special prosecutor to look into Donald Trump and Michael Flynn and Paul Manafort, and that's exactly what happened. So Politico explains the Justice Department on Wednesday named former FBI Director Robert Mueller to serve as special counsel investigating Russia's alleged involvement in the 2016 presidential election, including any possible involvement of President Donald Trump's campaign in that effort. Now, had Donald Trump not decided to brazenly obstruct justice, this wouldn't have happened. But now he's complaining about it, and he's calling the fact that they are appointing a special prosecutor a witch hunt. Now, among other things, he said, "I believe it hurts our country terribly because it shows we're a divided, mixed up, not unified country," Trump said in his first public remarks about the appointment of former FBI Director Robert Mueller to probe the Russian controversy. "And we have very important things to be doing right now, whether it's trade deals, whether it's military, whether it's stopping nuclear, all of the things that we discussed today. And I think this shows a very divided country." Yes, because Donald Trump is so noble. He's looking out for us. He cares about the issues. That's why he pushed his party to take away health insurance. I mean, this guy is unbelievable. So I'm not personally sold on the Trump-Russia collusion story. However, if by appointing this special prosecutor, we're able to discover corrupt business deals that Donald Trump made in Russia, or anywhere else for that matter, then I'm okay with it. And let me just say this. The reason why I support an investigation is because I'm always going to be in favor of more information and not less. But meanwhile, Democrats have got to tone down the Russian hysteria because there's currently no evidence of collusion. And even if they can prove that Russia did leak DNC emails and John Podesta's emails to WikiLeaks, I don't think that's really a bombshell because I don't think that really had that big of an influence on the election. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can take the word of establishment media outlets like the Daily Beast, who said that WikiLeaks actually trolled the world because what they released was nothing on Hillary Clinton. They said it was a big womp womp and, it had no influence. But once Hillary Clinton lost and they were scrambling to figure out why she lost, well, they decided to pin blame on WikiLeaks all of a sudden. But we try to influence elections all the time. France didn't complain when Obama endorsed Macron, and Bill Clinton stated his preference before in Russian elections. And there's a lot of people on the left that vehemently disagree with me here, and that's fine. If you can find evidence, however, in this investigation that Donald Trump worked with the Russians to rig voting booths, that's a whole nother story. That's unacceptable. And I obviously unequivocally denounce that. However, simply releasing emails exposing corruption, I don't think that's tantamount to rigging the election. And don't take my word for it. Take the word of establishment outlets like the Daily Beast, because they're the ones who originally said that there was nothing going on. And Vox even had an article where they made fun of the WikiLeaks release of John Podesta's email, saying that it exposed his recipe for creamy risotto. So, they said it was nothing until they wanted to pin Hillary Clinton's election loss on something. However, with that being said, even though I disagree with fellow liberals and even fellow progressives on this issue, we're starting to come to an agreement around the issue of obstruction of justice. That's something where we all agree that that is not acceptable. Obstructing justice is not acceptable. And if Donald Trump did do that, then yes, I think that that is something that is an impeachable offense. And to anyone who is a Donald Trump supporter who doesn't think this is an obstruction of justice, let me ask you this. When Bill Clinton met with Loretta Lynch just days before James Comey made an announcement surrounding the investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server, did you think that was an obstruction of justice? Well, if you think that's an obstruction of justice, but Donald Trump firing James Comey isn't, just specifically when he asked him to back down from Flynn and he didn't, if you think that that's not an obstruction of justice, then you're biased. You need to be more objective. You need to realize that obstruction of justice is not okay when Bill Clinton does it, it's not okay when Hillary Clinton doesn't, and it's not okay when Donald Trump doesn't. And we should hold all elites to the same exact standard, because you don't get to escape conviction or punishment just because you're wealthy or just because you're powerful. If you break the law, you should be held accountable. And because Donald Trump now, we have evidence that he tried to obstruct justice, it's time we get serious about impeachment. And when it comes to the possibility of impeachment, that's now a real possibility. And the first Democrat called for it on the House floor this week.
I rise today, Mr. Speaker, to call for the impeachment of the President of the United States of America for obstruction of justice. I do not do this for political purposes, Mr. Speaker. I do this because I believe in the great ideals that this country stands for: liberty and justice for all. The notion that we should have government of the people, by the people, for the people. I do it because, Mr. Speaker, no one is above the law, and that includes the president.
Now, some people may brush Al Green off as, a partisan hack, when I actually don't think that's the case. He's one of the few members of Congress that I think is better than the rest. There's even some Republicans who are open to the idea of impeaching Donald Trump. So the Hill reports, Representative Justin Amash on Wednesday said if the reports about Donald Trump's pressure on Comey are true, it would merit impeachment. But everybody gets a fair trial in this country, Amash added as he left a House GOP conference meeting. And I think that talking about impeaching Donald Trump is long overdue, because I'm one of the first people that said Donald Trump should have been impeached because he was in violation of the emoluments clause on the day he was sworn in. And that's already cause for impeachment. But evidence of him obstructing justice puts the need for him to be impeached over the top. So if you break the law, you've got to go. And I'm going to be very clear here. Does that mean that we're better off with Pence? Not at all. I think Donald Trump is not as bad as Pence. In fact, I think that Mike Pence is exponentially worse, because he's someone who actually is intelligent to a degree. He's more calculating. He's someone who could get things done and do some real political damage. However, just the fact that Pence is more scary doesn't mean that we shouldn't hold Donald Trump accountable, because if you have a democracy and you have elected officials that break the law, they don't get to get away with it because of the consequences of, someone else who might replace them. They don't get to get away with it because they're powerful. He doesn't get head of state immunity. If Donald Trump obstructed justice, Donald Trump needs to be impeached. So, I find this story a bombshell. If Comey's memo is true, if Donald Trump fired Comey because Comey would not back down on his investigation, that is a very, very serious thing, and nobody should take it lightly.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.